Alright guys, I'm gonna redo my DR versus evasion discussion. I've kind of broken it down here. There might be some things I'm forgetting. First of all, before I get into it, I just want to let you guys know this is not necessarily a recommendation for what you should do for your gameplay, but rather provoke thought on what you can do in your gameplay and the reasoning for going evasion and DR. That way you can make an informed decision by yourselves. This is going to be helpful, I think, for pretty much any player except super veterans. So if you're like already very familiar with DR and evasion and how it works in depth, I'm not sure this is going to be that helpful to you. I'm going to break it down a little bit more than generally speaking, so you might find something in here you can use, but let's just get right into it. So let's talk about the pros of going DR and evasion first before we really get going. First of all, big pro of going DR, you can get a lot of AP, you can get accuracy accessories because you have so much AP, and in PvE you're going to be a little bit more tankier in this current meta. For some reason, PA buffed all the mobs to have insane amounts of accuracy, so at the top end, high-end grinding, you're going to get hit no matter how much evasion you have, really. Evasion pros, you're really tanky. I think there's been tests done many times between somebody who's stacking a relatively decent amount of accuracy into their kit while maintaining high AP and damaging both a DR and an evasion person. Even then, evasion still comes up on top on how much damage you're taking. You're taking less damage. Another pro is you're going to be a god to pretty much everyone who doesn't have like 950 to 1000 accuracy, or their class is just cracked with accuracy. But to pretty much everyone else, you're going to be untouchable. They can't do any damage to you, so yeah, you're just playing a completely different game than them. First of all, I want to talk about evasion because that's the more complicated one. I'm going to break down why I have the classes I have in evasion category. It's not super complicated, but if you guys take a look at this chart I have open, got a bunch of stuff, kind of ignore it, it's too much. We're going to just take a look at this one called hit rate mitigation. Hit rate mitigation is basically your combined evasion, so how much evasion your class has passively and with its natural buffs, plus accuracy shred. Okay? So how much accuracy you can take away from your opponents when you hit them with certain abilities. This is going to be what determines whether you can or cannot play evasion for 90% of the classes in the game. Not all, but most. So you can see Sork would probably be the best class to go evasion on according to this metric, just because its passive evasion buff is so high and it tends to minus your opponent's evasion by quite a bit, so minus 9%, 12% accuracy rate. That's really super strong, so Sork is a no-brainer for going evasion, I would say. Other classes that share like similar strengths would be Musa, Meiwa, Ninja, Kuno, Striker, Mystic. These are all classes you probably want to play evasion for. And even Lan has a decent hit rate mitigation. Shy, Hash. Hash, you know, that's actually an interesting one. I think I forgot to put... I have Hash as evasion, but realistically, this class is not necessarily an evasion class, even according to, you know, what I have written down right there. By the way, this is not my Google Docs. I will give credit to the person as soon as I'm finished. But Hash belongs in the both category, so Hash is going to go right there. And why do I say that? Well, I mean, just guys, take a look. Like Hash, sure, in general, like it used to go evasion, I think. But it doesn't really have the best hit rate mitigation in the game. Not even close, really. I mean, 12% is pretty weak. It's about the same as Lan Awakening. And a lot of Lans these days, as you guys know, are playing DR. And I think for that same reason, you're going to see a lot of Hashes. If not, I think they already are playing DR. They tend to. So Again, this is not really a recommendation video. It goes to show you that you can play evasion hash if you want. It's not terrible, but perhaps DR is an option for you too. Okay. Corsair, evasion no brainer, especially awakening, and Megu. Now, that's going to be what determines what classes can play evasion for the most part, but I want to talk about the both category now because this is a really big exception category. So, generally speaking, classes are going to be listed as both when they have some sort of hit rate mitigation in their kit, like hash and LAN, but they're not necessarily at these high percentage values like 28%, 37%. These are just classes that have decent evasion. They can go evasion. It's not trolling if you do go evasion, but realistically, it's not the best evasion buffs in the game. So perhaps, like, given your character's kit, you could get more value out of playing DR and having more damage. Just give me one moment here. Got a little bit of a cold right now, so my voice is a little bit rough. Okay. The both category is when it gets really spicy, because I feel like this is where people really lack knowledge on what allows certain classes to play in certain ways. So I'm going to use Sage as an example. Sage is a class that can play DR or evasion. And you're going to look at this chart and you're going to be like, what? Why? He has no hit rate mitigation. Basically, no evasion buffs or no accuracy shred. Guys, you're absolutely right. But look what Sage does have. Dun, 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 dun. You guys see that? 58% total high accuracy. 50% total low accuracy on Suck Sage. This means that one of the pros you get for playing DR, which is accuracy, suddenly become of no value. So you're losing one of the big pros you get for playing DR in the first place. So what does this mean? Well, at a certain point, AP is not as valuable as it used to be, especially when you get really super geared. So what this is going to basically mean is, well, you don't need AP anymore, and you don't need accuracy. So why the heck do you have all this AP and accuracy? Might as well drop it for something useful. This is where we're going to start optimizing stats. This allows Sage to play evasion. Okay. So, for a similar reason, if you keep looking at this chart, we have a lot of total high accuracy classes. We have Zerker, we have Valk, we have Wizard. You might ask me, why can't a class, for example, like Zerker, play evasion? Well, they do have the high accuracy. And it's kind of a similar situation for the hit rate mitigation. The problem is, I don't think that evasion tends to scale as well with HP as DR, and it doesn't really fit the playstyle of the class, where the class really just wants to get in, be tanky, do a lot of damage, and die. A Sage is kind of ratting around and using the trading of the evasion a little bit better. But a Zerker's not really going to run in and live in a large-scale PvP situation, so you're just kind of getting in there, doing your big dam, and dying. This is a little bit of a recommendation that I have, personally. I think a totally underexplored aspect of DR and evasion would be Witch and Wizard as Awakening. Now, I'm not like a super big Node War player. I do watch a lot of streams, but I'm not really in the wars myself. I'm just going to give a disclaimer now, but from what I can tell, Witch and Wizard as Awakening have the same kind of benefits as a Sage does, except they're not ratting around necessarily. So in this case, it's not really a recommendation. I would still say most Witches and Wizards are going to opt to play DR. However, especially Witch, which does have a I'm not mistaken, a slight passive here. Let me see if I can find which. Yeah, 2%. It's not a lot. 2% hit rate mid. You can explore playing Evasion with Witch and Wizard Awakening exclusively. This is not a recommendation, but it's something that you could try and do. I don't know if the benefits, the pros and cons are going to be worth it. You have enough accuracy to do it and try it out. You're not really going to lose a lot of your damage. So if you find yourself over the AP cap of what you can actually use and you're just crapping out too much accuracy in your kit, well, maybe try doing Evasion. That might optimize your character to be more tanky. This is a bit of a recommendation that I have, and I want to see a lot of other players on Uncapped try and see how it is. I know there is one witch that runs Evasion. I don't know their name, but my buddy was telling me about them the other day. And then we've got Hash, for the same reason I mentioned earlier, where Hash's hit rate mitigate is not super good. It's solid, I guess, whereas Hash, right here, 12% and 9% respectively. It's got a sort of lower tier Evasion kind of buff. So for that reason, I think a lot of Hashes are playing DR right now. They can just get more benefits from the accuracy that you can pick up by playing a DR build. Okay, and there's one class I forgot to put here, which is right after Hash. It would be in the both category, Lan. Lan for the same reason as Hash. Basically, it's a class that doesn't necessarily have, let's take a look right here, Hash. 30%, 22% high accuracy. You can see it's in the red here. And Lan for the same reason, 17%, 26% respectively on Uncapped. Really not enough accuracy. You're going to need to pick up accuracy somewhere. And their hit rate mitigation is not that high. So you think to yourself, well, at that point, is it even worth running Evasion and losing all of that damage? For a lot of players, the answer is no, if not for all of them at the moment, especially for Lan. So you're not trolling by, running an Evasion build with these classes by any means, but you might see yourself losing quite a bit of damage on Uncapped PvP. Now, honestly, guys, we don't really even need to talk about DR. It can just be summarized as this. All of the classes that don't fit into this special, that do not have what it takes to run Evasion or be a hybrid build, which means either they don't have enough accuracy or their playstyle doesn't fit it, for the reasons I mentioned before. Pretty much everything else is going to be a DR build. And that's kind of my take on DR and Evasion. I'm sorry that I was pausing my speech a lot throughout this VOD, but my voice is really messed up right now. Hopefully you guys learned something. I'm going to try and post this VOD somewhere if I can.